You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to Trek FM's From There to Here, where we talk about all 729 episodes from Broken Bow to Star Trek Beyond and everywhere in between. Joining me tonight is Lee Hutchison. Lee, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm quite excited. I feel fate's brought us together for these two episodes, Davis, that I actually saw these two episodes in your hometown of Florida, well, your home state of Florida, as a kid. So, like, the memories are kind of flooded back of watching these two episodes on a Disneyland resort. So I'm excited to dive back into 1998.
Yes, and this is one episode, the season finale, where I will tell you, I was completely shocked, and I did not see that coming.
Ooh, I was a bit different, but I suppose we're probably jumping the gun here, aren't we?
Yes, we are. So let's go ahead and talk about the first Deep Space Nine episode, which is The Sound of Her Own Voice. So what did you think of this one?
I think it's quite an interesting episode because I said it in the recent podcast where we discussed Change of Heart that I consider this episode the second part in a Jadzia death trilogy. That in Change of Heart we get to see like the relationship between Worf and Jadzia like so close up, and you know what it's like. Can they go on together? How will Worf cope if she dies? You know, really being in with them in a horrible bind where Jadzia really should probably have died in that episode. And then with Tears of the Prophets in our next episode, you know, Jadzia dies. Like that you know, no spoilers really there. But we don't get to see kind of a funeral. But we do in this episode that the characters are talking about their fears, their worries, how they're coping with war, their fear of losing someone so close to them. And we get to see them, you know, have a toast at the end. And I always think of that as an unofficial Jadzia funeral, her wake. And I considered those three episodes and these two as part of that trilogy of, you know, giving, you know, it might think like Tears of the Prophets, it's over so quickly for Jadzia. But I think when you put these three episodes together, it makes a kind of a wonderful trilogy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you think about watching this one as I was rewatching it this morning, I noticed that the rescue mission that they were hoping to actually find Lisa Cusack, it comes to a bitter end, and at the point where they're doing the Irish wake for her, Miles gives a hint that, you know, one day one of us may not be here, and we'll have the rest of us to be able to comfort each other. And you have to wonder if that's foreshadowing on what's to come.
Yeah, I think so, because they knew kind of, I think it was before Change of Heart, they knew she wasn't coming back for the rest of the season, and they said she wanted to be like, why don't we just kind of go with Change of the Heart? Like, that could be a really interesting way to kind of kill Jadzia off. And I think like when you kind of watch Sound of Her Voice, when he gets to that end of that speech that we're going to make up and one day someone's going to be missing from the circle, the first person it cuts to, you see like Worf and Jadzia. So I definitely think it's kind of foreshadowing, and you know, that's why I almost consider it this kind of unofficial trilogy that I always felt shortchanged with what happens in the next episode. But when I kind of tie all these episodes together, and especially watching this episode, you know, today, some of the stuff they're talking about is incredible. This is, you know, we've had a good few bottle shows in a row for Deep Space Nine because obviously they're saving their money for the finale, but some of the stuff they're talking about is wonderful. And I'm kind of a trainee counsellor as well, and when I'm listening to these characters like talking with a stranger, like I think that's incredibly realistic, that we often struggle to talk about our deepest feelings and fears with people we know and love, our best friends, but sometimes just that different voice, that someone that's not necessarily there that's going to pass judgment on them or as part of their daily life, can really be a fresh voice, a fresh perspective. And I thought it was a really great example of counselling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you completely, and I really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was actually really good, and some of the little highlights I got from it, just from rewatching it, is the USS Olympia left the Federation 8 years ago to do a deep space exploration. So that was, what, fifth season of Next Generation. So they've missed quite a bit of what's going on. Lisa Kuzak dated an Andorian one time, and you got to admit, the joke she played on Bashir was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a classic. Like, I think it's really, you almost feel this person and see it like the end of the episode when they're paying their tributes to Lisa. You think it could be kind of cheesy, like, oh, they don't know this person, but you kind of almost, you're so invested in the relationship through the first 40 minutes, and at the end, I think the whole thing, it must have been this time distortion or blah blah. I've always said it, like, I will forgive technical nonsense or gibberish if it furthers an emotional development and character growth. I don't like it when it's just for like technical garbage advances like a plot to like fill a hole. But if it facilitates an excellent character study, then it's fine by me. That's not a problem. So like I can overlook that and I can buy into the tributes they pay at the end for this character. It's really touching.
Oh, absolutely. And what did you think about the B plot with Odo and Quark?
Yeah, I think that's a quite sweet one as well. Yeah, it's a nice touch. I think, Odo owed Quark some sort of victory, and it's lovely at the end where you get to see him just like, oh, I'll have the holosuite now. And he's like, really? It's nothing overly exciting, but it's nice. It's a bit of character growth. It's that constant battle between each other that sometimes you gotta let them have a victory here and there. So yeah, I thought it was a pleasant B plot. It's nothing overly memorable, but it's charming enough.
I always thought it was Odo's way of using the rule of acquisition. Every once in a while, make peace with your enemies. It confuses the heck out of them.
Yeah, it's a brilliant mantra to live by.
All right, so we have anything else to talk about the sound of her own voice?
No, I'm ready to dive into the finale.
All right, let's dive into Tears of Prophets. When Sisko is picked to head up an attack on the Cardassian homeworld, the prophets appear to him in a vision, warning him of an impending doom if he leaves the station. So what'd you think of this one?
I've got here at the top of my notes in capital letters, epic, exclamation point, escalation, exclamation point. I love this episode. It's the reason I picked it. That I was on holiday as a kid out in Florida. I went to Disneyland with my family, and I remembered seeing Sound of Her Voice like months and months before I would have ever got the chance to see it in the UK or even had the chance to buy the video. And I remembered like I was such a buzz to see Sound of Her Voice, and then I remembered like I knew Jadzia was going to be the one who died because there used to be a thing here in the UK on teletext where they would have a Star Trek spoiler channel where you could tune in and get like spoiler information about like upcoming episodes, and they'd revealed that Jadzia Dax was going to die. And I remembered the trailer, and it's still, I watched it again this morning, and it's exactly as I remembered, like the season finale of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They are going to go to war with the Cardassians, but by the end of this day, one of Sisko's crew will have died, and it flashes through all the main cast. I remember being in America like, oh my god, I'm going to get to see the season finale of Deep Space Nine months early. Like, as a kind of 10-year-old, I was totally buzzing. So I made sure I was back in the hotel to watch this episode. And, what a treat it was to get to see this kind of episode so early. Like, it's got everything. It's got action, adventure, tragedy. It's got a shocking finale. It's pure escalation. It's why I love Deep Space Nine finales, that like you look at Voyager and TNG, they do the cliffhanger and then you kind of resolve it all in the next episode. Like the escalation and like Deep Space Nine finales are about escalation, right? What's happened this season and where are we pushing it to the next? And like the fact that the Federation achieves this victory but the wormhole's gone, like, Dukat is now a power wraith, we've lost Jadzia Dax, Sisko's left the station without and he's taken the baseball with him. Like, that's not stuff that's going to be resolved in 45 minutes. It's escalation. It's building up to the next season, and that just gets you so excited as a viewer. Like, where's things going to go next?
Oh, absolutely. And I will tell you, first time watching it back in 1998, I had no idea she was leaving the show. Had no idea whatsoever. So I will tell you, Dax was my favorite character on the show, and it broke my heart. I mean, just to see her get killed and the way she died, you were just like thinking, no, wait, she can't be dead, she's just injured. And when Bashir comes out and says, I was able to save the host but not Jadzia, and you're just going, oh my gosh, because so many cool things happened. I think it's the Keldor Joy Festival was going on. Sisko was awarded the Christopher Pike Award. He's picked for the invasion of Cardassia. And also Worf and Jadzia are trying to have a child. So, the opening of this season finale is, there's a lot of great things and a lot of powerful things happening. But then it's slowly, all the doors just start to close. The wormhole closes up, literally. The prophets are gone. All the orbs turn black. It broke my heart to have Dax say, our child would have been beautiful.
Yeah, and it's such a powerful moment, like when she dies. And as a kid I thought, it's not the best death in the world. You kind of want your heroes to go out like fighting, but to like her death, and they mention it obviously in season 5, was like, it's just a kind of cruel, horrible, almost meaningless death. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I think that makes it more interesting as a drama than having her kind of save the day in some sort of superhero schlock. I think it's really interesting, and it creates a lot of interesting plot lines in season 7. I think one of my favourite things about Deep Space Nine is like it's a real world Starfleet, and to see like the major powers all around a table in the wardroom, like talking tactics and positions and stances, like I find that stuff so fascinating. It makes these like races seem so real. It makes the war seem so real, like seeing all the people in the different uniforms. It's so grounded in a reality, and like the battle scenes are just incredible. I think to this day they still are some of Deep Space Nine's finest. The suicide bombings, I remembered as a kid just thinking, holy hell, like seeing them just smash through the Klingon lines, those missile defense platforms. There's just, it's so visually just mind-blowing.
Oh, absolutely. And then, when they finally take out the asteroid, I think that's the part when Sisko has the Obi-Wan moment and realizes something's just happened. Mm-hmm. Something bad. I mean, they're on to victory. They're starting to land troops, and they all of a sudden get a priority 1 call from Deep Space Nine saying something bad has gone wrong. And Sisko's at a point in his life where he's just going, I need to take a leave of absence. Yeah. I can't do this right now.
And I think it's a wonderful parallel that when he does leave, that we saw at the end of season 5 when they left the station, that Sisko left the baseball, he was coming back. This time he didn't leave the baseball, and we obviously see that in both the season 5 finale, the 6th finale, the 7th finale, how powerful that baseball really is. And I think it's a wonderful kind of parallel to see between the 2 finales. Another thing that's amazing about this episode, we see the return of Dukat. He's now this Pa-Wraith radical, which is quite fascinating, which is kind of out of left field but yet makes total sense. And then I love, like, Weyoun and Damar are 2 of my favorite characters in Deep Space Nine, and one of my favorite lines, just favorite, is like when he goes, you think the founders are gods, and he goes, the founders are gods. Like he's it's that kind of typical thing with a religion. My religion's real, but the other one, that's the hokey one. And I love that line, the founders are gods. Like the way Weyoun says it with such contempt, as if, how dare you even compare it to the Pa-Wraith Bajoran nonsense. I just love the relationship between that 2, and I think it wonderfully carries on into season 7. So, and we see the first appearance of the Dominion war room as well. So there's so much here in this episode. It's just incredible.
And also, there's a visit at Vic's.
Yeah, let's hear it for the losers, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved how Vic was talking to both of them and said, look, you've already lost her a long time ago. Move on.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those interesting things, like they made the decision to kind of touch upon this back again, that when we saw it in Change of Heart, like the B plot line was about Quark and using Bashir's like clear love of Jadzia to throw him off in a game, and then we see it again with Quark in Prophet and Lace, where we see him kind of look at like Jadzia going, oh, I love her. And obviously they knew by these points that she was leaving, and they kind of brought it full circle that there was those little, both got their individual moments where they reminded they loved Jadzia, and then in Vix they're both kind of hung up still on this woman. And I think it's a little bit pathetic from Bashir at this stage that they've been friends for so long, like there's no been indication of romantic interest for years now. She's married. It seems like kind of a bit kind of regressive on Bashir's part, but it's okay.
Oh, absolutely. So, I think we've pretty much covered this episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's incredible. I mean, I'm actually going to be back for the next batch of Deep Space Nine episodes, so I'm so excited to dive into season 7. This is just pure escalation, and we're off into one hell of a final season.
Absolutely. So, Lee, if anyone wants to talk to you about the last season of Deep Space Nine, where can they reach you at?
Yeah, you can find me at Lee_Nostromo. You can find me at Star Trek VHS. You can find me on my own podcast where I talk about geek culture with Tristan Riddell and Matt Hansen on the Senate Floor podcast on the Nerd Party Network. What about yourself, Davis? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Davis Grayson, or on Trek FM's Facebook group, The Babel Conference, or you can also find me in the Phantom Podcast Network, where we talk about all things geekery, and the Highlander Blood of Kings and Couch Potato Theater.
Live long and prosper, everyone.